A term that I coined some years back was creating a friction-free practice. Hi, I'm Dr. Joel Parker, founding of the Standing Ovation Practice program, in private practice for 17 years and the last 20 years consulting private practices just like yourself. Today I want to talk about how you can create a friction-free practice, one that just flows and keeps the morale high. And I want to get into what gets in the way of that and what is the main thing that starts to heat up a practice and create a lot of emotion in the practice. Okay, let's dive into it. So many of you have had those weeks in practice where there is a lot of busyness and so forth and a lot of stress and tension. And then you look back and you go like, holy crap, we hardly made any income at all. And then on the other side of that, the flip side of the spectrum here is that you can have those weeks that everything seemed to go by super quickly. You look back, you're surprised everybody got home on time. Everybody left at 6 o'clock whenever the day closed. Everything went great. And you look back, it seemed like you weren't busy enough, like you should have had more work in, but you look and the income was super, super high. You know what I'm talking about? And so what I discovered here was the major thing that creates drag and friction in the practice. It's almost like friction on an airplane wing or like barnacles on a boat that's going to create drag and friction. The biggest thing that creates drag and friction in a practice and will drop down people's emotional, let's call them tone levels, that'll take them from being really happy and fun into being like grumpy and slightly PO'd are none other than mistakes and confusions of untrained staff. Now, many of us are kind of type A individuals. I've worked with a lot of techs that were just incredibly talented, but they had an absolute low tolerance for mistakes and confusions. And I can see why, because the work has to be redone. It slows everything down and creates an environment where everybody has to be careful around that untrained person that's creating those mistakes and confusions. I'm like that too. The other thing that happens is that if you've got staff that aren't trained properly, or they have been trained, but they just aren't getting their act together and doing what needs to be done, is that the rest of the team starts to compensate for them. So it's almost like a football team where you've got an end receiver that's supposed to receive the ball, but they routinely drop it. And so you get the quarterback that's going to run it. You know, they're instead of passing the ball to the end receiver, they go, nah, he's going to drop it. So they decide to run it. So you get people that are bypassing these staff members that are creating friction in the practice. My experience is that this practice friction that occurs that drops us emotionally down into the grumpy bands is a little bit like static on a bad radio, that when you turn up the volume, it doesn't get any better, it gets worse. So as a practice gets busier and busier, and you've got people that are creating mistakes and confusions and friction within the practice, you get the feeling you need to hire more people, which is going to take our payroll figures up into the outside the normal acceptable limits, and you're going to add more bodies and people into this already, kind of confused and already kind of slightly negative environment. Okay, you guys tracking with me? Make sense? Good. So the way to get around this is a couple-fold. Number one is your selection process. I would say that to create a friction-free practice, one that's super fun to be in and the time flies by and you look forward to going to work in the morning, you don't want to drive by and just go to the Starbucks down the street for 2 hours, but you actually look forward to going to practice, that's filled with these 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 exceptional people that are super fun to work with. They're real gamesy. They like playing the practice of like a game. They might play sports on the weekend, stuff like that. They're just super, super what we call uptone, positive people. They're 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20. So to find them, you have to be a great practice. It's got to give the outward appearance of being super fun. So you've got to have a website that's designed to be looking really fun with pictures of you and your staff having fun. You've got to have good social media presence, on Instagram and Facebook and so forth, depending on your community. If you're in a retired community, then you're probably going to do more Facebook postings, but doing both, it's super easy. And there's programs like Hootsuite and so forth that you can do one posting. It's going to populate amongst all the social media channels that's showing that your practice is a fun place to be. So you want to attract fun people. Sidebar note here, one of the best sources of super fun people, especially for the front end of my practice on the CSRs/receptions, was to hire really, really funny, happy clients that would come into the practice. That was by far one of the most successful moves I made. I used to have a little sign on the front desk that said, "Are you a positive people person, in parentheses, who loves pets too, on parentheses, please apply." Doesn't mean we're hiring all the time, but we started interviewing people. And you've got to interview, don't forget, 10 people to find that one exceptional human being that's super fun to be with. Okay, so start interviewing lots of people. The old thing is you should be interviewing 24/7. Just because you hired a new CSR, do not stop your interview process. You have no idea how long they're going to last. Maybe they're going to get hit by a bus going backwards down a one-way trip on a weekend trip to Mexico. Who knows? The only thing that you can do is to keep looking for people. So as you've hired people and as you're onboarding them, you're continuing to hire. Okay, so take in lots of applicants, hire lots of people, put them through training. The second thing is onboard them properly so they know what they're doing. And I like the initial onboarding to be done in a separate exam room or an office that's away from the busy periods of the practice. Do not put a brand new person right in the throw of your playing field mid-play, because chances are they're going to get in the way and they're going to create mistakes and confusions, and the rest of the team is going to go, they're going to all of a sudden start getting careful. So protect your team from the new staff member. Quarantine that new staff member with all their confusions and so forth for at least a week or two in an exam room or a training office. Okay. 3, onboard them with training videos and good written materials, right? And do everything on a gradient. And then finally, when they get to a certain point, they can go and study the materials for a couple hours a day, then introduce them to the head receptionist or the head tech that can take them under their wing for a couple hours a day after they've done their kind of bookwork training. And a lot of times they may be just standing off to the side, observing what's going on. Okay, careful training so that they can start eventually feeling how they're going to slip into the flows of the practice without creating a lot of friction. The 4th or 5th one here is to learn to meet with people on a weekly basis while you're training them. Close doors, make sure that you be kind and acknowledge the good things they're doing, and then get into the things that are needing more training, looking for confusions and looking all the while for areas that you can retrain them on and then reintroduce them back in the team. And if you do that, you can start to minimize the mistakes and confusions, this internal friction in the practice, and you can start to have a practice that starts to be light and fun to work in, and you can start to get those standing ovations of great reviews and great referrals. Okay, guys, so that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed that and that you've got some interesting ideas out of this. I'd love to see your comments down below. I do read them, so make sure you comment, and importantly, hit that like and subscribe buttons. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notifications. Tell your friends, and love to hear from you again. You make sure, again, comment down below. And that's all I got for you today, and I will see you next week. Thanks again.